like it in this.
Bring in progress. All right.
You're supposed to be
Oh, I
small.
pushed that. All right. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
It's great to see old friends.
Hi.
We're hoping soon we can see all of you in person without masks.
Getting
but
there.
We'll see. We're getting there.
Getting there. All coming.
Excuse me.
So Christina, let us know when everyone's in and we'll start chatting. I cannot figure out how to do this. I'm going to have to put this on there.
Can I ask you guys a quick question while you're waiting?
Of course.
Please, Jen.
Sure.
I thought I had a Feldspar 5, but I have a Slate 5 and a Feldspar 4.
7.
Oh.
There, that's the end of it.
Numerals get me every time.
Oh, sorry.
So which one would you recommend I open in its place to pair with the cheddar?
Oh my God. Wow.
Wow.
I think I'd
Not
stick
to,
with the
not to
Feldspar.
put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah, I have no idea. Try them both.
Yeah, stick with the other Feldspar, I think.
I know. I think
And-
I'd stick with the
and
Feldspar. Where are the
Pour
questions?
some for everybody else
Right.
on the Zoom while you're at it.
Okay.
Great.
There we go. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
The Roman numerals.
Well, there's one of each, but
There's
yeah,
one of
it's still
each, that's
confusing. It's confusing what's what. Anyway, so.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Well, it's lovely to see people again. Thanks for tuning in during your dinner hour. And our plan tonight is to talk about these two new releases. So I think we should
Yeah.
remember to actually talk about the wine first, and
Okay,
then wine
deal.
and cheese, and then the usual questions and everything else. So
Okay,
you wanna
deal.
be
Let's try some
spokesmodel?
Chardonnay.
All right. So
We have the 2020 Chardonnay.
am I spokesmodeling? Okay. Go ahead. You talk about the one. I'll hold up the bottle. I guess everyone knows because you have your own. Here's what we're tasting.
Okay.
Chardonnay 2020.
Hey,
There we
it
go.
is.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. And okay, a little bit about 2020. For whites, a really just nice year. I don't. We were talking about this the other day, how our whites vary significantly less than our reds. And I don't think that's just a Black Ankle thing. I think that's certainly an East Coast thing and maybe a whole world of wine thing, that it's a little more easy to make a consistent white wine than it is red. The reds are tougher. So 2020 was a really nice vintage and for the whites and well, for the reds also, but we'll leave that for a future. So what we got is a bunch of really nice, really ripe, really clean Chardonnay. We made two different Chardonnays, this one and a reserve, which will be released probably Mel next year. I don't know, 8 months, a year, something
We just
like that.
published our schedule, right? Have we published it or we're going to publish it?
Yeah, soon we're
Very
going to
exciting.
we get a release schedule coming out. And the difference almost always is when we're blending is just can we make a really good one and an even better one? And it's rarely by vineyard block. We have 3, maybe even 4 different blocks of Chardonnay, depending
Yeah.
how we pick in the vineyard. In 2020, we only picked 2. I think we went back and looked at our notes. We took some of the old vine and picked it together with some of the newer vines. They're all 10 years. It's 10 years or 20 years old at this point, but because they seem to ripen at the same time. And then we took the other half of the block and mixed it with others. So it isn't so much vineyard block as it is barrel by barrel that we blend these. So
Yeah.
And yeah. So with Chardonnay, what we're looking for, we and I know one of the questions was why do we barrel ferment instead of do it in stainless steel and try to get sort of more pure Chardonnay out of it. And so we are looking for, we've heard this, probably talked this many times, wines of structure. So at wines of feel, and even beyond tasting them or not, how do they feel in your mouth and the weight and everything as they go through on your palate. And Chardonnay is especially that. Chardonnay doesn't have a lot of flavors, a lot of aromas actually, compared to other grapes. But it takes on structure really, really well. And that's why it's become sort of probably the most, well, at least one of the couple most famous white wines in the world. So we try to do that with structure. And we did once try a tank fermented Chardonnay And we were not happy.
One
with
of the clones of it. Yeah. Just a
Yeah.
piece of the blend. It just didn't have as much interest as the barrel fermented did.
Yeah.
So that's what we've ended up doing.
Yeah. And we get much more of a structure. Barrels do give it a lot of structure. And so that's how we like to make it. That's why we do a barrel. So.
And yeah, we've played with it over the years. I think the biggest change we've made as far as how we make the wine is to pick it earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier.
And earlier.
So,
yes.
I don't know. There are Chardonnay is a grape that's very susceptible to differences in how it's made, when it's picked. I mean, every grape is, I guess, but maybe Chardonnay a little more so than some. So in the early years, I think just in general, we were just worried about making sure we could get things ripe. So I would say we picked, not necessarily that we picked everything later, but we were really, we felt we had like a little chip on our shoulder about being on the East Coast and not being sure we were going to get things ripe, or we were carrying the world's chip. I don't know what you want to call it, but that was our concern. Our concern was always to make sure things were super ripe. So we would wait and wait and wait. And we're like, okay, for sure, you can't complain that this is ripe. Chardonnay is a grape that can make some really nice wines when it's much younger as far as the age of the fruit. So I would say as we've kind of gotten in our, just tasted more of the world's Chardonnays and gotten a little more confidence in our own ability to decide what's going to make a good wine and a sense of what the grape will yield, like a sense of when we taste the grape, what the wines are going to end up like. We've started picking the Chardonnays earlier and earlier. And what that does, it does add to the whole structure idea because it gives it much more acidity. You end up with much kind of like a cleaner flavor profile, I think. And maybe like a little bit less, I don't know, I don't want to say richness, but like less of a chance of heaviness, I would say. You can get a lot of richness without heaviness.
Great. That's a great way to put it.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And all of this discussion, we're going to get to the actual wine because we never do in a minute, but suffice to say, let's contrast this with something like Albarino. Chardonnay is a winemaker's wine. The fruit matters a lot, but so do all the decisions we make: barrels versus tanks versus malolactic fermentation or no, versus stirring the leaves versus. There are a lot of things that you get a big stamp on your Chardonnay as a winemaker. Our Albarino, for instance, we pick it, we press it, we put it in a tank, it ferments on its own, we put it in a bottle. There's no Ed and Sarah
very
in that
short,
wine.
Very short happy hour on the Albarino.
Yeah, it's just there's almost no imprint of us on that. That is what comes out of the black and gold soil, I guess.
Right.
So
vineyard wise, there's a lot to it, but yeah, certainly in the winery, it kind of makes itself.
Yeah.
And when we sit at the blending table, I mean, the red wines take far and away the most blending effort and the most mixing and matching, but the whites sometimes we'll do a little bit. You'll see there'll be 10% Viognier in the Gruner, we'll do something else, but almost always we taste the Albarinos and we're like, all right. Sometimes we'll mix and match the way because we're trying to do different blends, not to have one big wine, but they will have different characteristics, but they tend to be kind of just self-standing. Whereas the Chardonnay definitely wants a little more.
Yep.
A little more playing with, I guess. Yeah.
Great. So this one, the first thing I'm happy with is I get almost no smell or taste of wood. So that is a real risk when you do barrel Chardonnays. They can absorb wood and you can get a very woodiness. And there's a lot of people, my mom is one of them, who loves woody Chardonnays and
butter.
There's lots of things, right? So that's not our vision of what black and gold Chardonnay to be. So we try to choose barrels and in particular that have the least impact we can find. We're constantly looking for a barrel with the least impact, and we have had a whole discussions of barrels before, but whether they're bent with steam or bent with fire, whether they're from this forest or that forest, whether they're the wood's aged for 2 or 3 years before it goes into the barrel, and there's so many factors into it. But our goal is to not have it taste like the wood, but have the barrel give it structure, help it create more
kind of depth and lift and mouthfeel. A lot of that you get from the barrel. We like to get that without the flavors of oak. Again, that's a style choice. It's not better or worse, but it's just what we like to do. And that's, again, as we've started picking earlier and earlier, we're going to end up more and more with that kind of leaning that way versus having the.
Yep. And I think what you're going to find, like
yeah.
I've used this analogy before, but if we made this wine in a, we talk about structure and mouthfeel and things. If we made this wine in a stainless steel tank, it would be sort of like, maybe 2% milk kind of thing. If we made it in, this wine is going to be more like whole milk. And you imagine that as mouthfeel, right? That you feel the weight of that. You feel the difference of that. This Chardonnay Reserve is going to be more like heavy cream. Or maybe I shouldn't use the word heavy, right? More like half and half or something, right? So even more of that from different barrels. It's going to have a lot more new barrel impact in it and do that. So, So the question was, are we using a lot of neutral or a blend? We use, it's probably 1/3 neutral and 1/3 new, and then 1/3 somewhere between 1 and 3 year kind of oak. This one, the much of the new oak tends to go in the reserve. If it's not woody, it's going to be much richer and things. So that's oak wise.
Yeah, this is a little bit.
So
all right.
I talked about what I don't get. What I do get is a little some kind of nice bread and yeasty kind of aromas, which is I think from our stirring of the lees, the dead yeast in the bottom of the barrels. We stir that twice a week all winter long, and you get, when it breaks down, it actually gives some of those I don't know, some people call it brioche flavors, but like bread, like when you bread's in the oven,
or even more like bread dough, almost more than the actual piece of bread. It's more the dough phase. Yeah, they got a little bit of citrus as well, and then on the palate, I like the feel of this wine and the persistence, the length. It's got some real. It stays for a while, which is really good. And I think it has some. I get some like stony qualities from it. I feel like it's like a little minerally.
Oh, that's a good call.
Kind of like in there.
Yep, that minerality. I think that we get more of that when we pick early.
Yeah, I think so.
It has something to do with the extra acidity in the wine, that minerality. So, and we can do a whole talk on one of these on minerality one of these days. It's a very controversial subject in the wine world because, wine, the roots of wine don't really absorb rock. So what does minerality really mean? Is it really minerality? Like,
is it actually coming from the minerals? We don't know, right? And everyone's like, "Have you ever licked a stone?" It's like, maybe.
There's a wacky guy. Have any of you heard of Bonnie Doon Vineyards out in California? The guy that runs it is named Randall Graham, and he's just kind of a really wacky guy. But he's willing to do really wacky things. And he once got into this whole debate with somebody about minerality. So he took 3 or 4 barrels of white wine and he took some rocks from his vineyard and he threw them in the barrel to see if he'd get more minerality out of it. And he said the wine was terrible. It ruined the wine for whatever reason.
Right. It did not taste what we think of when we talk about what rocks taste like.
This is what it comes to. People are trying to prove minerality or not. So, but I think, to me, at least I know when Sarah says there's some minerality in this wine, I feel like I know what that means. It's maybe it's a little salinity almost. But like, I don't know, minerality seems to kind of that leanness, that smell of when you walk up a rock path and it's just rained and you get that smell of that. Like there's some of that in this.
It reminds me of the kind of like a gray blue color. I don't know how you can taste the color, but to me that's like, I get the sense of that, like with that cool. Feel that it gives you. So anyway, that's where I go for it.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
So then another one of the questions was so we did a little pairing. I don't know how many people went all out and like figured out the cheese and I meant to bring the wrappers to do a little advertising, but I left them in the kitchen. Anyway, so this wine we paired with the Moo Cow Creamery Swiss, which is this one over here. So I can show you the cheese. Here's our little cheese board. Anyway, it just looks like a block of cheese. It's kind of hard to tell. They're not that exciting to look at. All right, because I forgot the wrapper. These are all cheeses that, here we go. Here's a piece of it. And to me, the cheese has a lot of that echo. It has that like acidity to it. That I think just goes great with the wine. It's got a lot. I really like this cheese.
I really like this cheese. Oh, this cheese is great. And somehow they're taste them together. It's making the taste of both of them last longer.
Yeah.
Like I'm still in 40 seconds probably since I drank that, ate some of the cheese and drank some of the wine, and I'm still tasting it. Yeah, kind of cool.
That's interesting. Yeah.
There you go. Really neat. All right.
So that's the
Moo Cow.
That's the 2 seconds on the Chardonnay. Yeah.
Great.
Should we talk about the Feldspar? I don't know if we can cycle back, or if anyone has questions, chime them in. But otherwise, our second wine today is here's I'm still drinking my Chardonnay. So
yeah, there's a question about other vineyards on the East Coast dripping out Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah, wow, that's a long question. I just got back a couple hours ago from a conference at Penn State where I gave a talk on matching variety to site, and we had lots of long discussions. And I actually I brought a bottle of our 2019 Crumbling Rock and our Slate 7 with me, so I got to taste those yesterday. So I'm really interested to taste the Feldspar along with it. And yeah, we had a long discussion about it, and Cabernet Sauvignon is it's a big part of this blend. It's the diva of the vineyard. It just won't give you good wine unless you have the right soil conditions, the right ground. It's my new thing to talk. Part of my talk was about how I'm going to stop saying the word soil. I'm going to start calling it ground, like all the farmers around.
Why don't you want to call it soil, Ed?
because to me, ground is soil plus the rock in the soil plus the air in the soil. That void space in between soil particles is so important, and the rock in there is so important. And when we talk soil, it always goes down to the actual soil in there. It goes for a soil test. Send something off to the lab for a soil test. What you do is you dig up a bunch of stuff and you immediately throw all the rocks out.
Right.
And then you've already, by digging it up, gotten rid of all the soil, the airspace in there. So we're measuring all this stuff, and I really believe the other stuff matters. So long story short, we have very different soil than most growers on the East Coast. And so, most in the Mid-Atlantic are pulling out Cabernet Sauvignon because they can't seem to get it ripe. It's our most planted vineyard at Black Ankle, and we are just this week ordering 40 more acres of Cabernet Sauvignon. We're going to plant up at one of our new farms that we bought up north of Westminster that we think is the perfect place to grow it. So we're going sort of all in on something everybody else is pulling out.
So far, we've liked it. Yeah. I mean, it definitely has its challenges to grow. It pretty much ripens last, which is part of the issue with Cabernet Sauvignon, I think, in our area, especially that. I think it's one of the reasons why it does well in some of these more deserty places, because it gets ripe after it stops being quite so blazing hot. So you have better chance to have kind of a more interesting flavor profile and a little more balance and a little less kind of just like overwhelming kind of jamminess. But in our area where we like the fall comes and maybe winter comes sooner than you want, you definitely have to have gotten it very well set up throughout the growing season to kind of get what you want out of it. So that's Cab. So this particular blend is pretty heavy on Merlot. The Feldspars, the Slates, Crumbling Rocks, Rolling Hills, Viento, those are all our Bordeaux blends. And so like the combination shifts from year to year, which just depends on the blend as the year goes. Yep. Yeah. And this one is, you looked it up, 2/3 press wine or something, right? Yeah,
it's quite a bit of press wine and quite a bit of Merlot. It's got that just a wonderful fruit on it and a wonderful smoothness. I just love you said it's Merlot, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should have known that tasting it first, because it's got that lushness It's much more lush than
Right.
the 19 Crumbling Rock that I had last night, which is long and beautiful. It's one of the best wines we've ever made, but very different from this.
Right,
and both great. And
yeah, this has like sort of a richness up front. You get, and I think I got told we should talk about flavors, but I think like you get more of a kind of like redder fruits, and then like a little bit of not earthiness, but like what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know, like slate or like pencil kind of almost in it. I don't know. I get a little bit of it.
Oh, like lead pencil kind of thing,
A
or
little bit, yeah, like just a hint of that on the nose.
yeah, I could see. We're not. I'll speak for me. I'm not great at flavors. I know that's one of the questions is, can you tell us about flavors in this? I'm not great at them. There are much better tasters out there that taste for flavors. I usually taste for things like length, and my brain can only handle a certain number of things. So I'm trying to look at length. I'm trying to look at freshness, and I'm trying to concentration, but not heaviness, and all these other things. So that being said, yeah, I see red fruits. I also feel like there's some like black currant maybe in this as well, and
I almost got a hint of licorice in it, like way at the end. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I might be making it up. I
Wow,
might be
licorice is
imagining
cool.
it, but like
yeah.
just a hint of that aroma.
But I get a kind of a darkness on the nose that I did not get from the other two wines, the Slate and the Crumbling Rock. And we're discussing these three wines. The Feldspar and Slate are both labeled with numbers because they are often blends of different vintages, and the Crumbling Rock is a vintage blend. But these last three are all 2019. This one, we could have labeled this 2019, but we want to be consistent. Next year, it may be a blend of different vintages, and the same with the Slate. So they are 100% 2019. So we're comparing them because they're all from the same year, and trying to tease out what's coming from the vintage. Merlot, this is 60-something percent Merlot. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's even more. It's like 70%.
So Merlot tends to have
64%.
that darker kind of lushness, that beautiful upfront palate, the kind of
It's got like a juiciness to it. Yeah.
And some kind of, I almost get almost like a Rhone, like an earth, like I said, earthiness,
like a little bit earthy, but not like a bready earth, not like a Syrah earthiness, more like a
wet earth, like
soil,
a mushroom kind of, almost a little bit.
Leaf cover kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of any good non-fruit aroma in a wine. I think is kind of cool. I love the herbs and the mushrooms and the earth and the minerality and all of that is kind of cool. Always to go along with some kind of fruit as well. It makes it more complex.
I feel like there's a little cedar and a little sage in here too. In my mind.
Yeah.
So.
And also, again, very little barrel impact, which is great. Noticeable barrel impact.
Yeah.
So what's this?
This is the Chapel Cheddar. And I think, I don't know, Christina, do we have our Chapel Country guys here yet?
She is here.
She's on.
Yeah, let me spotlight her just.
All right, awesome. So we have a special guest star to talk about this cheese. Let me know when you've got. So Trisha from Chapel's Country Creamery is going to come on and just talk to us a little bit about making the cheese. We have bought Chapel Country. I think it was maybe the first cheese that we found we were looking for.
I think so.
For local cheeses.
And Monocacy Ash.
And Monocacy Ash, yeah.
I think when we opened, those were
maybe the two Maryland cheeses that we had.
Only two Maryland cheeses we had. That was 2008.
There you are, Trisha. Hi. So you have to come off mute. Trisha's on mute. You should. Yeah, there you go. So you just got in from milking, right?
Like technology.
It's all good. It's
all of this
very friendly crowd
is all new.
Great. All right. So this is the Chapel Cheddar. So tell us a little bit about it, please.
And I apologize. I literally just got in from the barn. And hopped on here. So I did put on a clean shirt, but other than that, I am not.
We can't tell the difference.
It's presentable. So So our chapel cheddar is definitely our staple cheese. It's the cheese that, the creamery first started with, over 10 years ago. And it's the base for a lot of our other cheeses that we end up either beer washing or adding different seasonings, spices to, or beer to. So it's for us an efficient cheese because we can take it various different routes, once it's made. Since we're a very tiny creamery, we're just a very small farmstead creamery, one of the few remaining farmstead creameries probably in the country, especially in the state of Maryland and on the eastern coast here, which means we literally milk our cows directly into our cheese vat. Everything is done start to finish completely on our farm. So, my husband does all the crops that feed the cows. And our cows get out on pasture when the weather is fit, which is hopefully coming soon.
Great.
And like I said, we divert our pipeline in the morning milking, and it literally goes right from the cow and right into the pasteurization vat. We love doing it that way because the milk starts at, 98 degrees. So it's really efficient starting the cheese making process versus starting at refrigeration temperatures, and then having to heat it up, cool it back down. And it also eliminates a lot of processing. It's not going into our bulk tank, into a truck, into another bulk tank, into, another cheese vat to be made. And that is 100% fine. That's how, a lot of cheese is made.
Right.
We just, focus on keeping it simple, and as natural as it possibly can be. So my husband is one of the cheese makers, and then we have a part-time cheese maker who helps us as well. And so depending on what's going on with the cows, I am really not scientific as our cheese makers are, and as you guys are with the wine, but it's definitely very different depending on what's going on with the cows, the time of the year, and as you guys say with the wine, like our terroir, our environment, our area, and what's going on really creates uniqueness in the cheese, since everything is completely done here start to finish. It's just, so our cheese maker has to alter the recipe to fit the milk that the cows are producing at the time, not the other way around. A lot of larger plants alter the milk to fit a very exact specific recipe, which creates that cookie cutter cheese. Like you go and you get it, and every single time it is going to taste exactly the same. We're a lot more rustic than that, depending on the batch, depending on the time of year. Everything's going to look a little different, taste a little different. But in general, our chapel cheddar is aged 6 months. Some of it ages longer, all depending on where we're at in the time of the year and how much we've made. But it's always aged at least 6 months. We love just the versatility of it. It's creamy, melty, has a nice little bite to it though. It's, not too subtle, but you can pair it basically with absolutely anything. It is by far one of our #1 sellers, purely based on its versatility. You can have it with wine and pairings, you can cook with it. And it's probably one of my favorites just because I can have a block in the fridge and do whatever my heart desires with it. And it's our toddler's, favorite evening snack. He was literally just sitting next to me eating all my cheese stash.
That's great.
He was like, "Mommy, I need to sit here with you and eat." I was like, "Well, pull up a chair."
There you go. Great. What do you have one particular breed of cows? What kind of cows are coming? Is this cheese coming out of?
So yes, I skipped over that. Thank you.
All right.
So we have Holsteins and Jerseys. So Holsteins are the big black and white ones. Jerseys are the little brown ones. And not all, majority of our Holsteins go back to my grandfather's cows from the 1950s.
Oh, wow.
It's something that's really, really important to us, is the cows and the families that they have and keeping them going. And my grandfather had world-renowned cattle that competed, internationally, and it just makes going out, to take care of them just that much more special when they have so much more meaning to us than just a cow.
Yeah.
They all definitely have names. I raised them all just like my own children. Drives my husband a little bit batty.
How many
have a lot
cows
of
do you
ladies.
milk? How many cows do you have?
So we milk around 45. So total, we have around 100, between the ones that aren't milking, the young animals. And currently, we do raise a lot of beef, and sell on the side as well, just because, again, it just is a lot more efficient to have everything here at one spot. We know how everything is
Trying to
raised.
change the view.
We've been doing that in addition to selling cheese lately.
That's
great.
great. That's great.
And you guys were one of the first, or maybe the first, to be allowed to make cheese out of raw milk.
Farmstead, yep.
Uh,
Yes, I think we were Maryland's first raw milk creamery. Yep.
Yeah, which is, for those of you who
Very cool, right.
don't know what that means, most cheeses are made out of pasteurized milk, so it's heated to, what is it, 140 degrees or something like that,
Mhm.
to pasteurize it, to kill all the organisms in it, and then new organisms are added to make the
Right, get it
cheese.
going, right.
And
Yeah.
raw milk is just not pasteurized, and there's so a little bit purer, I guess. Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
fantastic. That's great.
So, sorry, I have not been paying attention to the questions. I just.
That's all right. Yeah, we're pretty proud. And
at
then
the comments.
how much lactose is there in cheese? Does the cheddar have lactose?
So I know it's a common misconception that a lot of people with lactose intolerance, flat out avoid cheese, and everyone is very different. But in general, most of, aged products and dry cheeses, they have very little lactose.
Interesting.
Fresh cheeses, brie, smooth sail, like fromage blanc, cream cheese, those types of cheeses are higher in lactose in general than these aged cheeses. And that's for the pure fact that aged cheeses are pressed and they're aged. So a lot of the whey is actually pressed out of the cheese, which is lactose. So
That's
That's what
right.
lactose says.
a
All
lot
right,
of-
interesting.
So I'm not saying that, everyone with lactose intolerance can
Right.
still eat aged cheddars, but in general, they have much lower content than if someone were to do fresh cheeses.
That's really interesting.
Well, as one customer loves your cheese, here's a vote to, as it changes throughout the year, label it. Spring chapel cheddar, summer,
Huh?
as the vegetation is different,
That-
because we'd love to do a
We
taste
would
test of your spring
love to
cheese
do-
versus your fall cheese.
It'd
Mhm.
be fun. It would
Yep.
be fun to see. Because they're grazing.
Yeah, that would be,
most of the summer season the cows are
Yes.
grazing, right? So I bet it's very different.
Yep.
yeah, it is. And the feed is just so different depending on what stage the feed is in, whether we just harvested it or it's fermented for 6 to 8 months, because it's definitely very different. And we are not what you would consider a seasonal herd. So our cows have babies at a consistent intervals all throughout the year, not all at one time.
Right.
But occasionally, depending, we end up having a lot more babies at one time than we anticipated. And the cheese is very different when we have a lot of moms that have, recently had babies. The content of their milk is just very different and makes for very different cheese those times as well. It drives our cheesemakers nuts.
I bet. Yeah. But
He-
it would be
he's
fun to
like,
try.
"Kid,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Turn-
you
turn
have
that-
a bunch of cows, Cam?" Yes, we did, Mother.
Yeah. well,
Okay.
here's,
Right.
here's our vote to turn a lemon into lemonade.
Right.
Like,
See, they
go
like,
with
all
it.
right, newborn.
Yeah.
we got a new one.
That would be fun. It would be fascinating to try, like, if we could do them. And I don't know how the aging process would
Yes.
affect it, or what, what we could do to, but it would be really interesting to see
I've
the
read
different
some
stages.
Yeah.
crazy high-end chefs or whatever do that with apparently Parmesan cheese. You can
Mhm.
buy is very different in spring,
Mhm.
summer, fall, winter, and so they specify I want only summer cheese for this recipe. Or,
Yeah.
That's
and
wow.
so like, okay, woo, but kind of cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
would love, I mean, we're all for we do lots of little experiments around here. When it comes to like labeling things different, the state of Maryland is
Yeah.
very,
There you go. Well, we can just do an
Complicated.
off-label, just label it and just tell us what's
But
going
we
on.
can-
Give it a stock number.
we
Yeah.
can tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as long as it's not on the label. I know, I'm sure
Yeah.
that's complicated.
We
Yeah.
there's you could we offline we should have a discussion about how to get around those
Yes.
like those. I mean,
It's being
'cause-
recorded.
yeah,
so
I know,
we
but
won't
like
talk
it's not
about
really
it.
get around it, but like
It's
yeah,
all right. It's all good.
yeah.
But it would be really interesting to see
Our-
what that's like. We would love
Yeah.
to do a tasting
Our
like
our
that.
customers know this. We had in we make some like one of the wines we're tasting tonight is a non-vintage blend, so it's a blend of different years, and it has to be I think 85 or 90% from one year in order to put 2019 or
Okay.
2021 on it. But we once got approval for a label that was the Rolling Hills, one of our wines, 11/12/13, and they let us do that because they said that wasn't
It was a
vintage.
name. It was the
name. So, but on the other hand, on this, we can't even put on the back label so much from this year and so much for that year. Nope, can't have a year on the
It's a
label at all.
funny thing.
So yeah, you can yeah.
Right. There are some funny rules. There it
Maybe
is.
the-
There it is. Right. Like,
We understand.
That's great.
We love that, they want safe food products and that, makes it good for all of us.
for
Sometimes,
sure.
yes, we
Absolutely. And people to
we may
understand
not
what they're
understand
getting.
the
and there's
methods
lots
to
of-
get there.
Yeah, exactly. There's usually very good reasons behind the rules, and then sometimes you're like, but it just sticks you where you don't want to be. You miss some cool things. So that's
Sometimes
great.
they
I
hinder
love
creativity.
yeah, yeah.
So there's a question
Yeah.
about other than coming to Black Ankle, where else can we buy your cheese?
So one thing we did during COVID, which we all love, hearing these past 2 years, we did initiate, an online store, and that has really become very popular. We can ship or people can select on-farm pickup, so if they're heading over this way, you can place an order if you're coming to St. Michael's or Cambridge and stop by, pick up your order, visit with calves. And then head on, take your cheese to your hotel, your B&B, wherever you're heading. There's lots of other places locally here that carry it in pieces in town. Captain's Catch, Eat Sprout, Council's Market when they're open, Piazza Italian Market. And we also partnered with another local creamery. They do milk, yogurt, ice cream, butter, and they do what's called a curbside cow. So with that, we partnered with them and they do our cheese along with their other dairy products and do a home delivery service.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, but probably the easiest way is just from our website because we can either ship it or do pickup. Since the only thing with that is since it is just my husband and I, it usually is a couple of days till orders can be ready.
Right. Fair enough.
It's not instant. We did have one person order as they were pulling in the driveway and they said, well, we ordered. Like, I wish I could accommodate. Sometimes I
Right.
can't.
If only. Right.
I wish I were Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. Well,
That's
fantastic. Well,
Excellent.
thank you, Tricia. This has been great. And
Yes.
Thank
no,
you for making
you
a
guys. We
wonderful
love,
product.
Working with you
Yeah.
guys and your customers. So, yes, very grateful and love your guys' wine.
Thank you. All right. Thanks so much. I don't know if there are any other cheese
Thank
questions.
you.
We got your website up here, so that's awesome. All right, go
Yep.
and make your dinner. Thank you so much. Take care. All right. Bye. But that was a treat. That's great. Well, it's always
That's rock.
that was our.
That's
I know.
a rock star for us.
Exactly. That was going to be our. That was if we could have figured it out. We would have made cheese. But
Yeah.
we're somewhere in the original. If you ever go back and look at our original business plan.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we'll get goats and cows and sheep. But yeah, I don't see it happening. We'll have to just find the pros and buy it from there. So that's been a good plan.
Next life.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Back to our wine questions. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on what they're tasting. I hear somebody piped in and said they're having the Feldspar 2, which is great.
No, not fair.
I know. Fun to go
Not
back and
fair.
see the old ones.
Okay, we had a whole bunch of questions before. I mean, look, I know.
Yeah, here, like, why do we blend? This is just like right up our, why do we blend? That's another whole topic. But basically, we sit down and we taste everything, and we always like it better once we put the blends together. So that's kind of the very short answer.
Yeah. There's a question about how long should we age this Chardonnay for?
The Chard.
The only way I know how to answer for this specific wine is that every Chardonnay we've ever made is probably as good or better than it was when we released it so far, going back to 2007 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
That was the first Chardonnay we made, right? 2007. And these last few that we've made the last couple of years, when we started picking earlier and getting a little more structure and acidity in the wines, those are good. Those should age even better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a question of how do you like aged wines better than, I mean, it's tasting beautifully now.
Right.
It'll be slightly different, but still, I think, beautiful in 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It tends to soften, like all the wines tend to soften over time. So it's really, it's very subjective. I guess I would say there's sort of a moment, there's time when you first bottle it and the wines are kind of rough, and it's not to say they're undrinkable, but like for sure they're going to do better if you wait a little while. We try to wait to release anything until we've passed that point. And then it really becomes a question of taste, and they change differently, but I'd say like even the acidity starts to drop out a little bit. You end up getting like a little bit like of a sort of a softer, rounder taste.
Yeah, the color, it might get a little, slightly
yellow,
more yellow in color.
Yeah.
But we've tried some old Chardonnays over 20 years old that I thought I wouldn't like very much, and that I loved.
They're so really good.
Just loved. So, yeah, I mean, and yet I would drink this tomorrow. So I don't have the patience to wait for the 20 years. I would just drink it, but yeah.
And I feel like the whites change less, or they change more slowly than the reds. Yeah. I think the reds tend to, you see the kind of expressiveness, and they just change a little more. The development is much bigger over time. So,
yep.
Yep. I don't know that there's any point in really hanging on to a white for a long, long time, but they'll be a little bit different. Vineyard update. Or is there more wine questions? I can go into like what's happening in the
vineyard
world.
Update. Let me do a quick vineyard update while we're at it. So we had 12 of our guys come back last week, this week. Yeah, I think
it's starting.
They're starting. Yay.
Spring. It's officially spring, whatever else happens in the world.
Yeah, we've done our pre-pruning already, but we're getting started on our actual pruning. And we've been doing that later and later each year, which is because of various disease. There are trunk diseases that get in and kill the vines. And when you prune them, you make a wound in the vine, and that wound needs to close so that nothing can get in. If the later it is, the closer you are to the vine coming alive, the faster those wounds close. So, in a perfect world, we'd prune the day before the vines came alive. Can't do that. We have how many thousand, 120,000 vines or something now, a lot. But no, 150,000 vines. Yeah. So we have to start pruning, but we've decided to wait a little bit longer and then bring more guys earlier to work on that pruning. We're preparing to do a big planting. We're planting a little over 40 acres this year. That's more than twice what we've ever planted before. And so it's keeping me up nights worrying about, and we're doing some cleanup with, a lot of it's going in at live edge, where when you're taking out some of the tree of heaven along the side, because that's a crazy tree that goes all over the place and does a lot of stuff. So
Brings in bad bugs.
working on that. You've wandered down the driveway, you see our case goods building. We're finally getting, we finally got the electric company to maybe move the power lines. You're going to see a difference at some point.
So exciting.
All that, if you've ever noticed,
Eventually.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but we do. There are utility poles that going up on the East Hill and the vineyard up there, and an electric line going up there. We've got a company to come in that actually sent a little thing to drill underground, and that whole power line for the neighborhood is going to go underground. So those are all going to come out. But it's taken a long time to get the permission to do it and get the
process going.
Potomac Electric
Yeah.
to actually do it. So then we can get our building going. The doors are going to go on, I think, this week of the building, and the insulation's going in. So we're going to start actually using that new building, which is nice.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting.
And the vineyard, we had a knock on wood, because we're not over with the winter yet. But so far the winter's been almost perfect.
Yeah.
Not cold enough to actually kill anything, but cold enough that you lose a few pests here and there, and you get the colder it gets in the winter, the closer together all the grapes get in ripening, and nobody's really sure why that is, but yeah, it's the way it works. If you have a really warm winter like they often get in the West Coast, the bunches on the same vine might flower a week and a half, 2 weeks sometimes apart. So you've got one that's that's ripe, and the other one is 2 weeks behind on the same plant. You can't possibly pick that. You can't see it. You can't notice it. But if you tasted it, if you made wine out of it, it would be different. So one of the advantages we have on the East Coast is we do get cold enough in the winter that our flowering takes place usually in 3 days, 4 days, maybe
For
5
any given
days.
variety. There
For
might
any
be different varieties flowering at different times, but any given variety flowers pretty tight.
So,
Yeah.
and that's good. So we want some of that cold, and we got just enough of it this winter that we'll have a nice tight window.
We should have a tight, picking window, which is great, which is good.
It's all good.
So it's coming along. Yeah, it's still early. I mean, everything's still dormant. We won't expect to see buds coming out for another month or 6 weeks or something like that. So when we do our next happy hour, we'll have buds it'll be June. So
I hope it's at least a month.
at least, yeah.
Although Napa just has had buds starting now. Last week, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
There
Crazy.
was a question about why are we running the power line. So the real big issue with moving the power lines is we're going to expand the winery building, and just the way where the power lines were, they were going to inhibit how big we could make it. So by moving a few posts around, we can make that building bigger. And then the rest, the going all the way up the hill was just because I'm sick of looking at the power lines, because it'll be nicer. I mean, it's a little bit less, it will actually buy us a little bit of vineyard space. We have to keep space around those lines, and it's wider when they're above ground than when they're underground. So there's a few practical reasons, but a lot of it is just because I think a lot of you will be better.
Yeah, so we already were going to have to drill around.
Yeah.
It wasn't that much harder to go.
Right. The live edge is coming along, mostly planting. So Ed talked about, we've got about 40 acres of vines coming in. Some of them will go at live edge. Some of them will go at this little farm that we bought right around the corner from live edge. They'll all come under the live edge umbrella. And those vines are supposed to be, the nursery is supposed to be packing them up this week, and they should ship out in the next 2 weeks. We should have them here fairly soon. And then that's going to be a big adventure to put 40 acres in. Yeah. Plus, can we rat you out? Melissa's planning a vineyard too. Is that public knowledge? Oh, it is now. Where is she off? Where are Melissa and Chris? They're off. Anyway, some of them are going, there you are, we're out of here.
Right.
So
do you want to comment publicly, Mel?
Do you want to, yeah. You're
No.
on mute. No,
You're on mute. No.
So watch this space in about 5 years, 6 years, right?
I don't want to public commenting, but I'm excited. I'm nervous and excited.
Okay, of course, right? I know we have a lot of.
But you can comment.
We can comment. All right. So Melissa and Chris are working on a little vineyard at their farm, And some of these vines are going to go to them, and they're going to put in they're going to put 4 acres in this spring, and then just watch this space. Another 5, 6, 7 years they'll have some great wines, I'm sure, to share. It's a beautiful spot. It really is a lovely spot. So we're excited for them. And I totally understand, both excited and really nervous, because that's how it feels to start a vineyard. Good news, bad news. We have a couple questions about Riscate and the whole soccer complex project. So it's coming along. I think the whole foundation is in, and like everything else, we had a few delays, just like technical glitches of figuring out how to transfer funds officially and legally and blah, blah, blah. But that's all done, and we're in progress. And they've got a Facebook page, which I think they're showing the build up. And so I think, I don't think it'll be finished. It won't be finished before the bulk of the vineyard crew comes back, but they've made some great progress. And I think they're kind of set up so that the guys in the town can keep working over the summer. And, hopefully next winter they'll make some really big strides. So it's coming. It's great. And they're super excited about it. And we've gotten just so much appreciation from everybody in the town. It all comes back to us, even though like everybody here who's actually supported it.
Yeah. So
it's been really
right.
Great,
We're getting all the feedback. We're going to give it out to you guys for being really the ones that supported this.
So good. So that's
excellent.
great. And I feel like Christina,
Great.
So how long before the vine? So once we plant a vine, usually it's about 3 growing seasons before we take any harvest. So it depends a little bit on how rocky the place is, what the growing season's like, how the vines behave, what variety is, a bunch of things. But generally the 3rd growing season, we will pick a little bit of fruit, maybe like a half harvest the first year, and then a little more the second. And by year 5, year 6, we should kind of have full harvest, which means that our live edge plants, which we put in, now it'll be 3 growing seasons ago, we should have a harvest. So we should have our first live edge vines. It's our first live edge wines. Grapes this fall, and then some white. So in 2023, we should be bottling some live edge wine. Yeah. Yes, the Sauvignon Blanc.
We may do it. Yeah,
we may blend it in or whatever, but it should be coming. Those grapes should be coming, which is exciting.
The first vines we planted live edge were a whole bunch of Merlot, a whole bunch of Petit Verdot, Sauvignon Blanc, and Chardonnay. And the Chardonnay got frosted a little bit. It comes out early, and it's it buds out earlier than everything else. And we got a frost when it was out and the other ones weren't. So it's a little bit behind. We're going to cut that back and take no crop from the Chardonnay this year. But the other 3, we're going to get a little bit of a crop from, and it's 25 acres so in total. So we're going to get some pretty serious amount of
difference. It makes a big difference what we'll have next year. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll get our first feedback of
was it a good idea? There you go. Right. I'm going to do a quick blitz through logistics because we're getting close to the end of the hour, and then we can go back and answer any, because I know we've missed a few questions. But we have our spring hours, which means basically we stay open an hour later on Saturdays. So Fridays till 8:30, Saturdays and Sundays till 6. We're going to be open, and then we're bringing back Friday nights and second Saturdays and music and food trucks and all that kind of stuff. So that is exciting. Since the vineyard crew is back and we're starting second, Friday nights, it's officially spring. That's just really the whole solstice.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
It's pretty much whatever. that's all background. It's really, we have declared that it's spring, so that's good. Another exciting event for us, I think, is we're going to do another cook at home dinner with forage. So I think a bunch of folks did this last time we did this. Oh gosh, well, it's been some months ago now, but where we get all the ingredients and then Chris from Forage kind of walks us through how to cook it, and we can kind of do a cook along together, or we have all the directions. So it's half gourmet meal carry out, half you made your own gourmet meal, and then paired with wine. So
that duck was just
we had a lot of fun, and we felt like total chefs, so we did it. It was very fun. So that is coming up. I think Zoe has all the details, so just email Zoe if you're interested in participating and haven't already signed up for that. And the actual event is March 26th. So, and then other kind of fun things that we're plotting. We are hoping that the world is going to let us do Crumbling Rock versus the World again, which it's been a long time since we did that. For those who haven't done it before, the idea behind it is we go out to a bunch of our customers, so the wine stores where we sell wine, and we kind of say, hey, if you wanted to spend, about what a bottle of Crumbling Rock costs, and you had a Bordeaux, somebody came in and said, here's my budget and I want a great Bordeaux blend. What would you recommend? And then we take those 5 or 6 or 7 wines and we put them in a brown bag and then we taste them versus the Crumbling Rock. And then we know what the wines are. So we go do a little research and figure out the backstory and how they were made and how they were grown. And if you're into the weeds of wine, and it's a super fun event. So that is, we hope, coming up. We've got it for May 1st is the plan for that. So keep an eye on your emails for that. And then
and hope for really good weather that day, because it has to be outside.
Have to do it outside. Yeah, we're gonna have to do it outside because it's just too much happening for that. And then we have a wine dinner where we're gonna May 29th. We have another wine dinner also. Hope for good weather. We're really counting on very good weather. So those are the quick logistics. We have a few more happy hours planned. So our idea is to try to do these kind of little happy hours once a quarter if people are interested. So our next one is June 9th, and then September 15th, and then November 10th is the plan.
And don't forget the art show.
Oh,
in
did I
May.
miss the art show in May? Oh, we're going to skip over. Talk about the art show, right?
Kathleen, what's the date? Remind us, because it's not on my list. So there's going to be an art show of some of our Black Ankle employees.
Right.
And it's going to be great. So
Kathy/Kathleen, come off mute and tell us about it, Kathy.
Hi, it's Members Weekend on second weekend in May, and it is a group of 5 local artists, and we've been working with landscapes, and we've come out 2 times, and we're going to come out in April again to do some plein air painting on the site.
That's
So
great.
we'll have it open end in the courtyard, and we'll have some freestanding platforms and things for the art to hang, and we'll be open Friday night, Saturday all day, and Sunday. So
And
you're
it's
welcome.
May, right? May 13th
Second
to
weekend.
15th, I think.
Yeah.
Just posted. Yeah.
May.
So you don't have any samples right in front of you there to hold up. Pressure.
No, I don't. I'm in the kitchen. They're up in my room. So
I've seen a few. There's some cool stuff coming, so
gonna
it'll
be
definitely be worth a peek. It's very impressive what these guys put together.
well, and hopefully we'll make it affordable for some people, and then we'll say some individual oil painting, and we're looking to get some copies and some G-clay prints and things for people that may not be able to come up with a couple hundred for original artwork. But yeah, so
That's great.
we're all working for it and looking forward to coming out.
Yeah, we're excited for it. It's
Fantastic.
great. That is
All right.
excellent. So thanks for the plug.
Sure.
That's good.
All right. We have a couple more questions. Or are
Other
we out of
questions.
time?
We had a few questions about the spotted lanternfly. So far, we don't have it.
Yeah, we don't have any. We've never seen one,
Yeah.
but it's coming. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time. We don't know whether it's a year or 4 years, something like that.
I'm gonna, as always, roll back and say the spotted lanternfly is this invasive pest, which is like the latest invasive thing to come along. It's a huge swarmer and it sucks the sap out of vines and it can be a real bear. And yeah, it's not great. But anyway,
I was just up at this conference in Pennsylvania, of
Yeah,
course,
where they've got
where it started. It started in, I think, Chester County, Pennsylvania is where the originals, it rode some container from Asia. Over there, it's just a regular old bug, but here it has no predators.
they're getting a few.
We're hopeful. Nobody's for sure. It was really crazy the first couple of years in a lot of vineyards and hops, and there's a bunch of some other
Plants
lot
that
of,
it really loves. Yeah.
fruit.
It likes
kind of plants.
fruits and
So,
ornamentals, I think.
And it loves the tree of heaven, which is why we're taking a lot of the tree of heaven out of live veg. And so it was tough. They've been trying to keep it contained, but it's not really working. It's traveling on things. It lays eggs on anything, and the eggs, you drive your car somewhere and it's laid your eggs on it and it goes to some other place. So it's hard to contain it. And it's pretty tough management wise. They found ways to manage it, but none of them are things we really want to have to do very often. It's basically spray a lot of insecticides to kill these things. So what seems to have happened is last year, for some reason that nobody's sure, the original hotspots, it kind of disappeared. And in the outer edges where it spread, it was still there. So people who newly had it, got it pretty badly.
Right.
But the people who had it for 3 or 4 years, suddenly it went away. And they're not sure why.
Right.
So there's the U.S. Department of Agriculture is spending, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars trying to find out what's going on with this thing, because if it spreads out of this area, it's going to hurt a lot of industries. And so we're just, keeping track of it. If it happens, it happens. We can't really do much about it. We're trying to just make sure we're ready for it if we can, and hope that somehow some nice native pest has decided they like to eat these things or parasitize them or something.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I tend to be optimistic, so I'm going to go optimistic. But since we started this, have probably had 5 terrifying insects come along that were going to destroy everything, and a lot of them have done some serious damage. So it's not to say like, oh yeah, no big deal. But generally what happens is this new insect comes in, nobody recognizes it, so nothing eats it for a few seasons. And then some brave other insect, bird, worm, animal, something starts figuring it out, and then disease, and then they tend to like settle back down. So we had the marmorated lady beetle, we had the marmorated stink bug, and then the Asian lady beetle, and then gypsy moths were a million years ago, but Japanese beetles. So there's a number of these pests that we've run into that like often are a disaster, and then they tend to kind of simmer down. So that's our hope for this one. You never know, and often there's some damage done in the meantime, so it's not great, but it's great news. It's great news that like where they were a real scourge, they seem to have kind of balanced back out. So, and I think that honeybees are doing some damage to them. Like there's like the other things just start to figure out what's going on. So it's kind of fascinating what nature can do. But sometimes it takes a while. So that's the update on those as far as I know. Yeah, we will see.
So we're hoping not to see any.
Yes, exactly.
Never seen
they're
one in person.
beautiful, actually. They're like red with these little spotted wings. They're very cute looking, but like, yeah, we were hoping just to see them from far away.
Yeah.
So
great.
So I think we have come to the end of our hour.
We have.
And I think we've run through most of our questions. If we missed anything, I don't know, you'll have to come see us. So thanks to everybody for coming out. Cheers. And we are so excited that we're being able to do more and more, actually see people out at the farm. Just hoping for a beautiful spring and a great couple of months. So take care, everybody.
Thanks
Cheers.
much.
All right. Bye. Thanks.